Dum cha dum dum cha dum dum cha dum.
Okay, it's time to easily start our today's session. We have 54 participants join us by now, and more still to join us. And to easily start, my name is Vladimir, and I'm engagement and e-learning specialist here at Interprefy. Welcome, everyone. Today, I'm joined by Mark Breakspear. He is our LSP and AV Partnership Manager. So, Mark, please feel free to greet the audience.
Hello, everyone. Nice to be here. I'm looking through the participant list and I see quite a few familiar names. So big hello to all those that I've had the pleasure of working with in the past in whichever capacity. Hopefully, this will be a valuable session for you.
Great. Thank you so much. We have David Medrano with us, the CEO of Interprenet. So we're going to allow him to take the floor as well and say hello to everyone.
Hello there. Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, loud and clear. Welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Vlad and Mark, for hosting us here today with this webinar. And it's just my pleasure to be able to join you and be part of this panel. I'm really excited to see a lot of familiar names as well in the audience, and grateful that everybody could make it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And we have next Matteo Ippoliti. I hope I pronounced your last name well. CEO of the Language Professionals. Hello and welcome.
Hello, thank you, Vladimir, and thank you, Mark, for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
You're very welcome. All right. So later on in the second part of the session, we will have our senior product manager from Interprefy, Richard Schiller, joining us and saying a word or two about that new updated, actually it's an updated feature, new look. We will see him a bit later. And today, with a bit broader audience than usual, we usually have interpreters for these sessions, but this time we have included several LSPs, and we will cover following topics. I will just share the screen with you. 1 second, so that you can also see everything, and I will also go through this quickly. I will say it in the meantime. Today we will speak about evolution of Interprefy, how we started with as an on-site company, with on-site events first. Then the pandemics hit, and we switched to RSI. And nowadays we can do almost everything. Then we will speak about RSI options for in-person events. Mark will also talk about equipment and venue requirements to use RSI, as well as benefits of adopting RSI for in-person events for both LSPs and interpreters. And we're going to have some special insights from David on strategic advantages of adopting RSI for Interprenet. And Matteo will discuss his recent events in Saudi Arabia and Interprefy solutions for the language professionals. After that, we will reveal our updated handover feature and have Richard Schiller saying a word or two about that. And in the end, we will open the floor for the questions where you can participate and ask those questions. Then, before I hand over to Mark, I will tell you a few housekeeping rules. So, as you can see in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, there are two chats. One is to contact the remote support, the one with the exclamation mark, in case you have some technical issues joining our session or during the session. Now, when it comes to the last part of the session where you would like to ask questions, you have in the top right part of your screen that green hand icon next to the left of the microphone icon, where you can ask for the floor, and I will allow you to take the floor and ask your question. You can also ask questions in the chat. We will have ASR captions today, and you can turn them on in the bottom right part of this bigger video container. Icon says CC. Click there, and you can set English as ASR captions. We will have Stefan from the remote support helping us today, and that would be all from my side for the beginning. Over to you, Mark.
Thank you, Vlad. Brilliant. Well, yeah, the focus on this session, this Q&A session, was all about on-site events. Now, what Vlad said at the start about how Interprefy began, because I think we're still known mainly from the period through the pandemic, because RSI was a solution that had to be used because meetings went online. There was no other option. But maybe less people know that we started quite a few years before that, trying to do um, facilitate interpretation in a more sustainable way, a more scalable way without a lot of the traditional resources. And as we've come out the other side of the pandemic, we're really trying to, guide people and educate people that there's no reason to lose all the benefits you gain during these online meetings and apply them to an on-site setting, because it still very much makes sense. So there is one key takeaway from this session, and that's to familiarize yourselves with being an interpreter, working at an on-site event. I'm sure many of you have done multiple times, and as an LSP, be able to offer RSI as a solution when it makes sense to you, and what benefits it can have for both you as an LSP, as an interpreter, and also for your clients that you're pitching your services to. It's not just a solution to use when the meeting's online, when it's an event platform, when it's on Zoom or Teams, but it has just as many benefits and even more for on-site events as well. So yeah, that's the key takeaway. We really do want to make it interactive towards the end. We want to hear your feedback. We want to hear what barriers you as an interpreters, as LSPs, what barriers do you face regarding RSI and or even challenges you have when you don't use RSI. So we've got two great guests joining us today. David, a long-term partner of Interprefy, Interprenet, we work very close with all day, every day. Matteo is a good friend of mine from Dubai, where we both live. A little bit rainy the last couple of days, right, Matteo?
Yeah, yesterday was
But
unbelievable. Yeah.
But Matteo is a great example of an LSP that also has equipment, does focus a lot in on-site events, and has benefited from utilizing RSI for his clients. And we'll go through a little bit of his experiences later on in this call. So all of you know how RSI with online platforms work. But when you're working at an in-person event, Vlad, you can knock off your screen for your share screen for a second, I'm sure. There's a load of different options available for the on-site participants. Okay, so yes, we've got the mobile app. Mobile app is fantastic because it has a load of different features, as well as options such as getting analytics through from what users are listening to what channel, corporate branding. We'll go into some of those later. There's captions available, whether or not the interpreters are on site in booths, or if they're remote, or if there's no interpretation at all. Audiences or event organizers do want to meet those inclusivity targets and provide resources for those where audio interpretation or audio in general is not potentially feasible. So having the ability to generate captions live during the event, either in the floor language or with translation from captioning from interpreters as well, that's a really nice feature that's available by using our platform. And although we all certainly at Interprefy love the mobile app, we do understand that in certain situations there is a little bit of resistance for a number of reasons, whether a lot of the audience have corporate restrictions on their phone and they can't download third-party apps, or they've already got an event app, or they just want the simplest experience for their audience. So they do want to have the traditional infrared receivers, FM receivers, radio free receivers, one of the multitude of options there are for regular on-site events. But that can be combined with the Interprefy platform. You'll all know that the interpretation system is very much two halves: the interpreter side of things with the booths, control units, the interpreter desks, and the transmission system, which is the transmitters, radiators, headphones, receivers. So the audience only experience the second half. Sometimes they notice there's a big grey box in the back of the room. Sometimes they realize there's humans involved in this amazing skill that you guys demonstrate. But they want, they want the usual experience, headsets there, with a little bit of cooperation from either your techs if you offer interpretation receivers as a part of your services for as an LSP, or interpreters have their own equipment, or if you bring on an AV partner to assist with that as well. You can link the two systems to really maximize the benefits of having remote interpreters while still having a very familiar experience from the audience perspective. And the other kind of less known fact is that Interprefy can actually work backwards. Now, this is really cool when you have interpreters in a regular setup on site, but perhaps you've got people in another venue, either attending virtually or in a media center that's across in a different building. It's possible to route the Interprefy audio back, the interpreter's audio back into the system so that those channels are available via the mobile app, via the browser window, via an event platform integration. So I've actually done events before that have been 10 different rooms, loads of parallel sessions, and not a single remote interpreter, because it's such a useful tool for audio routing from one place to another with just a reliable internet connection. So I wanted to start by just showing a couple of slides so you can really picture what's involved with on-site events. Let's see if I can share my screen here. Yeah. Fantastic. So this, my three main scenarios that I like to talk about is that, first of all, the pure Interprefy way. So you've got your interpreters that are working remotely. The event on site, obviously, there's going to be an audio desk. There's going to be potentially a camera feed. If not, that's something that your on-site partner, for instance, Interprenet, can provide. They stream that to our platform so that you, the interpreters, can see what's going on and get a clear view. And then all the audience can use the mobile app. When you're mixing that with translation receivers, again, it's those two halves. You're replacing that first half with a few laptops, one set on each channel, and you're sending that feed into whichever transmission system you're using to get to those regular headsets. Now, this streaming element, we normally recommend streaming directly to the Interprefy platform because we have more control over it, but it's nothing complex. It's no different to any regular event broadcast stream, and very simple for any AV company to do, or even someone technical within your LSP organization to come with one laptop and take an audio and video feed from the on-site AV team. And the final one, this is this backwards version that I explained, when the interpreters are on site in the translation booths, but you've got to get to this beautiful guy with a beard here who's in a different space but needs to access the same interpretation as people are doing in the room. So it's very simple to use us as a multi-channel audio routing platform with no interpreters online, but you still get all the remote support that you guys love. David, maybe you could start with a couple of a bit of insight on how you do things with Interprenets and what this is meant for you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Mark, for that breakdown. Well, there's a lot to be said, right? So as you were mentioning earlier, when we started doing simultaneous interpretation with remote interpreters, we're going back to 2017. So you had founded the company in 2015, and we were right there with you. And right away, we started to offer these solutions that you're describing now. So pre-pandemic, this was already a huge hit with clients, and maybe that's something we'll have to talk about more in this panel, about how, why, if it's been available for so long with such great results, why sometimes, clients are hesitant or reluctant to try it out. And so we can get to that. But to answer your question more directly, what we found is we do both, on-site interpreters and remote interpreters, right? So, but I think it's important to be clear about the terminology. And one of the challenges when we're thinking about presenting these options to clients, which leads to how we actually do it, is being able to lead with what really matters. What does a client really want? Whether you're an interpreter or an LSP and it's your client, they just want conference interpretation, right? That's why we're here. I'm a former conference interpreter by trade. They want quality conference interpretation, which means simultaneous interpretation. We all know that. Most of you probably who are interpreters are conference interpreters. So it's important not to come in and say, well, here I have this other solution, which is called RSI, versus what we call OSI, on-site simultaneous interpreting, but rather the baseline is you need simultaneous interpretation, right? Now, whether my interpreters are remote or whether I have X amount equipment on site, that's really irrelevant. That's a secondary part of the conversation. The first part is we offer simultaneous interpreting. And so by leading that way from the start, it's helped clients realize that, oh, yeah, you provide what I need. Oh, absolutely, we do. And then we have the conversation about different ways of offering the simultaneous interpretation. One way is with on-site interpreters. Another one is with remote. By following that logic, we had a background of a couple decades doing conferences, so we've been in this space for a long time. 70-80% of our clients moved to simultaneous interpretation with remote interpreters, what we're calling RSI today. And our experience has been, and together with Interprefy, we've done over thousands of events like this, where the majority of clients continue to ask for RSI. We found that the typical setup is going to be similar to what Mark just shared, which was with the smartphone app, where the user is using the smartphone app to listen to the interpretation at an in-person event, with a very lean setup in behind the stage, in the backstage, just a couple of computers, and you have everything ready to go, which is a great factor for clients. And the other option that we've often used a lot, because clients sometimes are skeptical or we can't overcome an objection for some reason, then it's the headset receiver, whether it's a radio headset or whether it's an infrared headset. That's been a real successful solution for clients, because very often that's what they were used to before. So they want the user experience to at least be the same before they take the next step of graduating, so to speak, to the smartphone app, which really makes a lot of sense many times, right? So I would say those are the two main ways in which we do simultaneous interpretation for in-person events. And let me just encourage us also to think about not using the word on-site for anything that involves the client side. Use in person for the client event. Use in person for the people, the delegates, the guests, but use the word on-site to refer to the provider's resources, on-site interpreters, on-site text. Make a distinction so that you don't confuse everybody later in what you're talking about.
That's really, really good advice. Thank you very much, David. So talking about on-site equipment, yeah. So I wanted to just clarify what is actually needed. We all know that if the interpreters are on site and the translation booth there's very little you need apart from a power socket and a feed from the audio desk. But the additional elements to implement RSI is not much more at all. You're going to be, the AV provider will be bringing the laptops that will connect to the platform. If you're as advanced as David in Interprenet, they've got these cool boxes that combine the power of and functionality of 6 laptops all into one box. But the same can be achieved just with generic AV or IT equipment that any kind of AV company will have in abundance. As you know, a video feed is very, very important. Ideally, one that is adjustable, that can focus directly on the content. If you're really lucky, then there might be 2 laptops that can show the presentations as well. But that's really getting into the dream of the setup, and of course, an internet connection. We always, even though it does work with wireless, if it's good wireless, we always insist on, or really try and insist on a wired connection from the venue. It's not just about stability, it's about packet loss and things like that. So a wired internet really is the best solution. Even better, if there are any concerns about the venue internet, you can get these like 4G routers that act as backups. So in the rare occasion that internet may drop out due to whatever reason, you can switch straight onto a SIM card and continue uninterrupted. No, I think in my experience, one of the main hindrances for people wanting to use RSI is that what happens if the internet goes down? What happens if the interpreter loses internet? What happens if that? And it's almost surprising because during the pandemic, we went through 2 years of very, very few issues with interpreters' internet dropping. So why is it suddenly an issue when we move back to an in-person event? I sometimes I don't understand it. But you know, a lot of people here on this call have gone through the Interprefy platform training. You know about the redundancy procedures. 99 times out of 100, there's always a pair of interpreters on the platform, so they're going to have that human redundancy, and that risk really should be outweighed by the benefits that are there to be taken from using RSI. You know, so focusing on benefits for not only LSPs and interpreters, but compared to traveling there on site, every interpreter has the remote support there, monitoring throughout, there to answer any questions, troubleshoot. The clients have the ability to scale the number of languages without the subsequent lack of space. There's the ability to replace or add languages without having to worry about who's going to be there, who's available on that day in that city. I know we've given David some crazy deadlines of requirements of getting people last minute, and I've never heard of a situation where we've ever had no, because there's this global reach of interpreters, so you can really pick the best, the best interpreters for that specific event, which is going to make your client happy. It's going to mean that you, as an LSP, you can pick whichever interpreter in your network is right. It means as an interpreter, you can obviously take on more work. And I hope the days of interpreters seeing RSI as the enemy has long gone, because we're there, focusing on you, trying to make sure that you can get as many benefits as possible. Matteo, can we go on to you? So I do want to leave enough time for some questions. We've got almost 60 people online, which is fantastic. Tell us a little bit about your experiences. I know you're a historic user of Interprefy as well, and also recently in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So I'd love to hear about your experiences from these in-person events and what your experience has been.
Thank you, Mark. Yes, actually, I got to know Interprefy back in 2017, I think, at the beginning, the early days, and I was fascinated by this RSI technology. I think I met the founder in my university because I'm also a conference interpreter by trade. So I used to be a simultaneous interpreter. And ironically, I met Interprefy's founder, Kim, in my university. I was fascinated by this. I was already in Dubai, so I moved here 10 years ago, and I tried to actually tell this to my clients. Stop flying in interpreters from Korea, from Japan. We have this solution now. But as you said, I got a lot of resistance, lots of, they were not, they were really skeptical towards this, having the interpreter so far away, in another country, and what happens if the internet goes down, etc., etc. So it was very difficult to convince and persuade clients to adopt this technology. Then the pandemic arrived, of course. Actually, we did the first project, hybrid project. So let's say when I moved to the UAE, I understood here clients want to have infrared equipment. They love infrared equipment. And so we purchased our stock immediately. And basically, we did, ironically, the first project, it was a hybrid project, and we had interpreters from Europe for an event in Abu Dhabi. And for that particular project, we actually used radio system. So we used the Bidul, the portable system. It was successful, it was great, but again, it was only one project in 2 years. Pandemic arrived, and then we started getting more familiar with all the different options that such RSI technologies have. So integrating, let's say, smartphone app with remote interpreters and also on-site audience. So it was like also fun. I enjoyed integrating different solutions, tailoring different options for clients for different hybrid events, and ironically, I thought that equipment was dead. In 2001, I said, okay, now we are done with equipment. It's going to be smartphone. 5G has come, and we're going to move to smartphone app. But ironically, we are still, doing a lot of hybrid interpretation with infrared equipment. So Bosch, we use Bosch or other brands, and remote interpreters. Ironically, yesterday I got stuck between Abu Dhabi and Dubai because of a project. Actually, 6 hours it took me to come back. The project was in Abu Dhabi. The client used their own RSI platform. They wanted equipment from us, only the infrared. And they actually, it was very strange because they had remote interpreters at the venue. Some of the interpreters were at the venue in a different room. Some of the interpreters were in another country, and the event was taking place in the hotel. So again, it's another, very creative way of now managing events. The successful, the successful case study I can present here with Interprefy, which is one of the best RSI platforms that we used in the last few years, was in Saudi Arabia. Ironically, this was a very simple, basic event with, I think it was 100 people, maybe there was 200 people in the audience. But for some reason, the client specifically asked for the smartphone app. So I said, listen, you don't really need the smartphone app for this. It's just, a small event. Let's stick to infrared. We have the Bosch system also in Riyadh. So let's use the traditional way of doing things. It's safer, quality is better. You don't have headaches with the connectivity, with the Wi-Fi network, with participants coming without headsets, mobile phone batteries, etc., etc. No, they wanted the smartphone app. They like this. They enjoyed the concept of having this new technology. And so we gave it to them. We have to be customer centric. So we wanted to make the client happy. It took a little bit more work. We got the great support from Mark and the team. And in the end, also, we managed to, it was only two languages. So the Chinese interpreters were in Beijing and Frankfurt. The Arabic interpreters were in Dubai. It was financial terminology, very technical. Still, again, if it was for me, if it was my event, I would actually done it with the Bosch system, with infrared, with the remote interpreters, maybe without the smartphone app. But this is what the client wanted. Maybe this is something that the clients will want even more in the future. So we have to be prepared to make clients happy. And we are here to advise clients. Again, we have to be customer centric, not product centric. So we have to give what client, we have to advise, we have to actually educate clients, but in the end, it's their choice, and that's it. So basically, I see a lot of potential for the future for these technologies. I think for my events, we're gonna have a lot of scenario number one, which is actually presented. So it's gonna be remote interpreters with on-site equipment. I see this. Maybe this on-site equipment will then transition to the smartphone app, but I still see a lot of resistance to the use of the app, at least in this area, in this geography here: UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, etc.
It's quite bizarre because in this part of the world, everyone seems to have the latest iPhone, and there should be no compatibility issues. But certainly, there is a bit of a resistance to change. But I think the general direction is going it's about the benefits that it brings. Certainly, when Matteo and I'm sure David will know the hassles it takes when you're trying to recover. Get reimbursed for losses of receivers during events. It is a continual headache, and this certainly is solves that problem as well. Brilliant. Vlad, do you, in order for us to leave enough time for Q&A, do you want to bring on the amazing product team that we have here at Interprefy to
I will
lift the
definitely
curtain on what we've got?
In a bit, I wanted first to play the video. I made
perfect.
a short video showing the new updated handover feature. Richard, if you give it just a minute, I will play the video first, and then you can tell us why we implemented this change and what has changed. Okay, I'll play it now.
We'll take some questions from the audience, I hope, about on-site events, in-person
for
events.
sure, definitely. All right, here we go. Hello and welcome to another How to Interprefy video, in which I'll showcase our improved handover feature. As you can see at the first glance, the new look is here, and we've made certain changes in comparison to the previous version of handover. Located in the top right hand corner, the same as before, you can now initiate a handover by pressing on the request button. A novelty in this version of the handover is that the passive interpreter will be able to initiate the handover as well, even though their microphone was on mute. Of course, you will still need to be on the same outgoing channel as your partner in order to initiate the handover. With a new and modern design, your partner gets notified about the request like this. Press on unmute to accept the request. If both partners are unmuted at the same time, handover symbol will be blinking red. And another new cool feature is that the interpreter who initiated the handover will be notified that their partner has accepted it, and they can mute either here or by pressing on the microphone button. As mentioned before, the most noticeable difference is that the passive interpreter can initiate the handover, and once requested, they will be unmuted immediately, while the active interpreter can mute themselves by pressing on the microphone button, or if not, they will be muted automatically after 10 seconds. This feature will be turned on by default. The handover later can only be sent by the active interpreter by clicking on this stopwatch symbol and choosing the number of minutes. Once the partner has confirmed, the timer starts counting down. And when it goes below 30 seconds, you can unmute from this button. In case the time runs out, it will be considered a cancelled handover, and you will need to request it again or perform a manual handover, which stays the same as before. It's important to note here that switching between the outgoing channels while the timer is counting down will cancel it, and you will need to send it again. We hope you will enjoy a refreshed and improved handover feature, and will continue optimizing the platform so that you get better working environment with every update.
Thanks, Vlad. That all looks very cool. It's the first time I've seen that as well.
Shiny. Our senior product manager, Richard Schiller, the floor is all yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. Yeah, so you've seen the new configuration of the handover capability. I think maybe the first thing to say is that as was already stated, that the handover works both ways now, from active to passive and from passive to active. And behind that was, there's a need to provide that second direction in the ISO standard, but we thought when we were going to tackle it, we're not just going to make something that was sort of very basic and going to cover the capability. We wanted it to really fit in with our existing operation and make it so that it feels almost like it's just one way of handing over. It just works in the logical way for each of the directions. And we think we've achieved that. So there's a real kind of flow to the handover sequence, whichever way round it's initiated. And we've also, as you've seen, smartened up the whole UI. And one of the features that people were questioning was like the messages would kind of take up a bit too much space, they'd be too dominant. So now it's very much focused in the handover area, which is very appropriate because that is where your focus is during a handover. So I'm thinking that you will find this a delight to use. I hope so. We've spent a lot of time and effort trying to make it just so. I'm sure, though, you will have feedback and we will welcome it. And if you all decide that, you would prefer it to look slightly different or work in a slightly different way or something, then please, let us know and we will take that into account.
Thank you so much, Richard. And what I like particularly about it, when you initiate, like when you request the handover, there's not that big pop-up window anymore for you to unmute. It's really optimized, in my opinion.
Yes, we heard what everybody said.
Perfect. That's how every product team should work. Thank you. So I will share the link of this video in the chat, so you can watch it, rewatch it, and please spread the word around to your colleagues. Most likely, we're going to launch this in the 2nd or 3rd week of May. You're all going to receive emails about this, and now I'm going to tell you a word or two about on how we plan to inform you all. I also expect LSPs to help us with this, to spread the word in between their interpreters. So we're going to send you emails with knowledge base article showing bit by bit like everything, how everything works, with this video included. And also, if you remember, since all of you should be here Interprefy approved interpreters, you all got the practice token. So once I send that email, you will get a new practice token with this new feature. And as I said, you will be able to practice, but it's only going to be launched in the 2nd or 3rd week of May. Remote support will also play this video in the prep time, which is usually you need to log in 40 minutes prior to the event. So in case some of you haven't seen it, you don't get shocked once you start working on some of the events. But I hope you are gonna get this information before you work on your event. I will also share it in the community, and we'll ask our marketing department kindly to share it on Interprefy's official LinkedIn channel as well through knowledge base article. We are going to add this to our e-learning course that all of you have passed, but only once it's officially launched. So e-learning course will be updated only when it's officially launched. And as I said, I would really appreciate David's, Matteo's, everyone's help here to spread the word about this. We have the link in the chat, so you can share it within your companies, with your fellow colleagues. And yeah, that would be all from my side about this. I believe we can slowly start with a Q&A session part. So feel free to ask questions about Mark's, David's, and Matteo's part of the presentation, but also about the new handover feature. So as I said, green hand icon, I will allow you to take the floor and we can answer some of your questions. We have somebody, Rix, here to ask first.
Good morning, testing 1, 2, 3.
Loud and
Testing
clear.
1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you very much. I'll be real quick. In the interest of time, number one, comments about RSI, the best thing that ever happened to me after 30 years of in-person. Personally, and different strokes for different folks, I cannot find one advantage of in-person over RSI, except for certain settings. Number two, the challenge has always been in RSI, the sound on the customer, the client side. I don't know why at 2024, it is still so hard for people to understand that a $20 USB mic from Amazon will do wonders. It's a barrier that it would be nice to surmount if possible, because that's basically the one main thing. And number three, and this is a question for all of you, what is the status on AI? Because I am very skeptical about the ability. It seems to be the new buzzword and the next best thing since sliced bread. But I really wonder, because language has a human component to it, that I wonder how AI can actually deal with that, particularly when you have bad sound and fast speakers and the element of language, which is ambiguity. Just some thoughts about AI. I'm asking, how much of a threat should we be actually looking for something different to do? Thank you very much.
I was so determined to keep AI out of this session because it was about on-site events, and obviously we're completely full of interpreters here. But first question failed there. But thank you very much for your time, for your question. We will answer it. We've got the senior product manager here, Richard. Would you like to put your input? Maybe David can say a couple of words as well, because he also uses it.
Yeah, I can say a couple words quickly. Yeah, great comments. And I think when it comes to what we do as conference interpreters, I think there's no comparison, right? I think if you are going to have a proper conveyance of the meaning of what is being stated, there's just no comparison when it comes to a professional conference interpreter and the quality and accuracy of what they're saying. And I do think there's going to be a time and a place for AI. There already is in some settings where there are no budgets. It's a certain type of flow in the language that is being spoken. I think what's more important is we're all feeling sort of the heat when it comes to AI in every area of our lives. And what's more important, I think, in our interpretation profession per se, is that we don't try to fight the trends, but we professionally try to figure out ways to reinvent ourselves, to be part of new industries that are going to be emerging, when it comes to providing linguistic support to technology initiatives, while understanding that we can't control this. So my personal preference is to listen to a conference interpreter, and I don't think there's any substitute. And I'm going to keep saying that, but I understand I have to be realistic that the AI is getting good, and so I've got to do something about it for myself, and not just sort of stay on the sidelines and wait for it to take me over.
And for us, we really see it as a different solution to conference interpreting. We've never quoted this as being a replacement for interpreters, but what it's enabled end clients and LSPs to do is to offer more to their clients, rather than having just the plenary session with interpretation and all the breakouts being English only. Now you've got the option of scaling up or adding more languages to cater for more than just your core 80% of the audience. Or when that Vietnamese minister walks into the room that you weren't expecting, click of a button, you've got Vietnamese interpretation as well. It's a tool to use to do more, not replace. That's really my opinion, and I work a lot with LSPs and AV companies as well. Richard, just quickly, so we can go on to a couple of others.
Yes,
We have Max. Go ahead.
I started working in automation when I started my career, and the first computers I worked with, we fed the data into the computer on punched paper tape. It was before magnetic recording, right? And so I've been replacing people using automation for my whole working life. And in all those industries that I worked in, the number of human beings doing the manual part of the job always increased. So, as automation came along, as the computer replacement for people came along, the number of people just went up. And the reason was because what happened when you automated it is it created interest. People suddenly thought, well, that's possible for me, and the market just grew. And so I'm sure we'll get a similar sort of effect, that for a while the level of interest will increase, and actually there will just be more demand for everything. I don't think it's necessarily going to be as large a bulge as I have seen in other industries, but I think that there will be just an increase. Human interpreters are absolutely brilliant, and they in particular areas they are irreplaceable in terms of AI, and then in some areas AI really is doing fantastically, and an example is speech to text, which is just so much better when done by a computer. So I think it's a working together thing. I think what we're going to see is a long period of both being used.
Definitely.
Thank you. We have Max who wanted to ask next question. Max, please. Hello and welcome.
Hi, everybody. Thank you very much. And unfortunately for you, I will stick to the same topic, because I just wanted to add up that even though I would love to agree with Mr. Schiller, I've already noticed that AI is actually replacing the translators, for one. I've experienced that myself, that people are just refusing the service. They say, oh, we're using AI. We don't need that anymore. Thank you. And I have also seen online a few RSI platforms that are using AI only for simultaneous interpretation as well. I'm skeptical, and I have doubts as to the quality of it so far. But I mean, AI is pacing real fast, and I guess it's just a matter of a very short period of time until it would be, well, let's just say decent Of course, not for every setting, not for every specific, like, interpretation, maybe high end, something like government level. I don't think they will switch to that real quick. But the general industries, I mean, they are gunning for it because it's definitely going to be much cheaper and more controllable. So thank you. That's just the only input I wanted to do to make.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Max.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions, maybe from LSPs, on this part that was presented by the gentleman?
I'd love to hear some feedback from interpreters about any pushback they've received when, if they've suggested AI, if there's any reasons why they don't suggest RSI in order for them to be able to work in multiple places. Um, I'm sure most people are probably doing primarily in-person events in their local regions or the regions that their LSP services. Anna, let's hear from.
For the Q&A, and thanks
She
for your
will join us now.
presentation. Very,
Hello, welcome.
very interesting. I think everyone can hear me. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, good. We've been doing both. Everything that you've described, we tried to set it up for the past 2 or 3 years since COVID is over. I think we have to be very cautious about what's going to happen in terms of getting the image and the sound right. Often clients will describe their venue, and in the end, um, either we don't have a good internet, wire connection, or even Wi-Fi is not working because the conference room is in kind of a basement. And this is very stressful for everyone, the customer, for the interpreters. So I really think that you have to be extremely careful about where the meeting is going to happen. How are we going to is there going to be a technician on site who is not just ordering pizza and speaking with his girlfriend because he's more interested in what's going to happen in the evening rather than what we as interpreters are expressing? And yeah. So I think it's a great idea to mix RSI and on-site, but again, this kind of checklist that needs to be verified with the customer. And often the customer is the secretary. She's not going to be there on D-Day. And so maybe have this checklist. But yeah, I mean, it is the future to not have the interpreters on site. But again, let's not jeopardize the entire meeting, because after that you can not get paid, get complaints, and be in a tough corner there. That's what I wanted to say. Yeah.
Thanks, Anna. I think that highlights the necessity for professional technicians at the site. I know Anna and Joseph provide exactly the same thing. David has a fantastic team that facilitate their in-person events with appropriate technical support, people that are trained on how to use the platform, what's needed. David, elaborate on that for us.
Yeah, no, great. I think some really good questions, and I think the last three questions I think kind of connect to this a little bit. I think Rick opened up with objections to remote simultaneous. Why would anybody want to go on site, right? And I think Anna is just, I think, expressing a very true objection. What if you're stuck in a basement, and what do you do then if there's no internet? And so I would say, and Matteo, I think, also touched on this. That was very helpful. What Matteo, you shared earlier about having an open mind, being client-centric, and having the flexibility to be able to give them what they need, but not neglecting a lot of the new solutions and opportunities we have to better serve the client. So I think education is the key here, right? So in my experience, Anna, when we've done all these RSI events with Interprefy through the years, the reality is the internet has never broken down. We've never had an outage. In fact, I think once we had a power outage at one event. So I can tell you from my own personal experience that we've had a better track record with the internet than with electricity, right? I think the internet is at that level now in terms of reliability, where we have to make that point. In addition to having backup systems for that we don't have time to get into now, data center backup systems. But I was just going to say, education comes down to finding out ahead of time what the capabilities are and trying to make and helping the client understand that there's always going to be some testing. There are always going to be some requirements that have to be met to get that wired connection. If they don't have a wired connection, if they don't have internet, if it's shoddy, yes, okay, understood. That's a valid objection. But most of the time, that's not going to be the case. I think the key for all of us interpreters, LSPs, is we've got to prepare to plan by having that discussion with decision makers, right? I understand your point. In a smaller event, maybe a secretary type person is not going to have much clout. But generally, from the very beginning, it's key that we assert ourselves in wanting key decision makers to come around us. If we don't feel confident because we don't know how to set up events like Mark does or Vlad, bringing someone from like an Interprefy team to help you. Bringing a tech support person to come and help speak to that. But it really isn't that complicated. Once we educate the client on their options, then they're going to see that, the user experience is going to be the same. Assuming, again, that we're not going to have an internet problem, which we really never do. So just some quick comments on that to hopefully set us more at ease that the internet is mostly an objection because there are many, many providers, unlike some of you and us who are here, who I think are a bit more flexible and open-minded. There are many providers that have a one solution only they want to be able to push. And so they're instilling that fear of, what if the internet goes down? And the clients, not knowing any better, will usually go along with that mindset. And I think it's for us to come in there and show them our platform is pretty much unbreakable, based on our track record, not based on something that is just like pie in the sky and hopeful.
Oh, no, I agree. I mean, again, there's a power cut, nothing happens. The meeting doesn't even take place. So that's not even what I'm just saying is that it's true that for a customer, if you explain, look, we do need internet, we have to make sure. I think the only plus point is that if it's in another city and it would involve high travel cost, then in this case, the customer is going to sit down and consider, having a mix of what we call hybrid. But if it's in a big city where interpreters can basically just come, the customer doesn't really understand what is the advantage of having this hybrid system. And again, the customer is going to say, okay, well, what if we don't have internet? Then we're safer with having the interpreters on site. That's just my experience that I'm sharing, but I'm 100% behind, having the hybrid version. So, okay.
Well, I'll just, great points, Anna. And just the last thing, Mark, I promise I'll be really brief. Just keep in mind, I don't think it's a matter of price, and I don't think it's a matter of the internet. Those will become issues if we don't focus on the real value that something like having the interpreters remote offers. And what is the real value? From a project management perspective, if you have a large event, managing all the interpreters on site, that's a task in itself. If anybody has done huge events, you have an army of interpreters on site. That's a challenge to be able to handle. The massive footprint in the room that's required to install booths, if that's the case, or even emitters, radiators, and heavy equipment, and even liability issues that go along with that as well. So if we were to have a debate about this, honestly, and for me, it's not about pushing one or the other, because I've really kept my mind open about what is best for the client. I would venture to say, and maybe we should do this one day, have a real debate with real facts and figures. I would say that the value of remote interpreters, apart from price, supersedes that of on-site. That's how strongly I believe we're not focusing on the benefits and instead just worrying about, the internet, or it's going to be, it's all about the price. No, the benefits are much greater than that.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you.
And I think if anyone needs technical support, as in they need someone to provide the equipment on site, and either provide receivers if you're an LSP with no, you don't have stock in the region of your event, reach out to Interprefy. We have an awesome partnership structure. David will help facilitate any event pretty much in the US. we've got loads of other guys all around the world that have experience with Interprefy. They have the receivers if required, or they'll just come with the cameras and laptops and really help you with that on-site footprint. So don't shy away from them because you don't know the region or you don't know who to go to for equipment. Use us as a resource, and we're all about being stronger together, utilizing RSI, leaning on our partners, and really helping all the end clients and LSPs and interpreters benefit from this awesome technology.
Perfect. Do we have any other questions? We can have one more and then slowly close the session. We had somebody who raised their hand, but then I don't know if they became shy and decided to give up. I had this question from Jan Sifan about why do we have 40 minutes? This is how it's being said for several years, and at the moment I can only bring this up for a discussion with our remote support team and the managers, so we can see if it makes sense what you're saying, but I cannot promise that this is going to be reduced immediately. But
I think
long-term question.
In an ideal world, 15 minutes would be ample. You say 30
Enough,
minutes for
yeah.
an on-site event. My clients, when I work at in-person events, if the interpreters came just 30 minutes beforehand, they would be panicking. Matteo, how far in advance for an in-person event do you ask your interpreters to arrive?
At least an hour before the event, but for some interpreters, some language combinations where the perception of time is different, it can be even 90 minutes, an hour and a half. So like Southern Europeans, like Italians, like me,
2 hours.
But that is one of the benefits of RSI. If everything goes perfectly, it's a quick sound check, great. But for the security of the event, if there is any issue with a headset, maybe the cat's chewed the wire on your headset whilst you've been having breakfast, we have that buffer time to troubleshoot and solve your issues. It may be that there's a quick 5-minute sound check, then you've got 30 minutes of going to have a leisurely coffee before coming back 5 minutes before the start, but much better that way than turning up 15 minutes beforehand just in case. So, but
great answer, just in case.
Amazing interpreter. I've worked with him a number of times. So, yes, if everyone was like you, Sam, no issue whatsoever.
Perfect. Anybody else who wants to take the floor, ask the question? If not, we will have this recording in probably next week. It's going to be published on our YouTube channel, and I will send it to approved interpreters as a part of the package about new handover feature. So some of your colleagues or LSPs who couldn't make it, you can watch the recording.
I know we've got time for one more quick one from Jackie asking about any new feature for emergency protocol for RSI, or is that something we can get back to?
It stays the same. Yes, everything stays the same at the moment. But can you tell us what is currently where do you see an improvement that we could go in what direction we can go with this emergency protocol to improve it? At the moment, for the ones who don't know, so for the emergency protocol, when your computer goes down, like blue screen or of death or something like that, you switch to your mobile phone application. Interpreters also have their token over there that they can log in. Only one channel though over there. You select the language and you start interpreting from there. So it's only when you do not have a backup computer. I guess it happens rarely, almost never, for the emergency protocol. I never had. There you go. You never had to use it, right? Okay, but I feel. There used to be issues with Samsung smartphones. Has that been addressed? Samsung smartphones. What kind of issues around what? Would you like to join us on the floor to ask more about that? To be more specific. Also, to answer Jackie, we do have a video about emergent. Oh, we do have a video about emergency protocol in our e-learning course as well. Microphone, Mark, do you have any experience with Samsung having issues with their microphone? Or anybody?
I know I've used it recently for various applications. I think that was probably quite a while ago. But
I will put a note here to try to find out a bit more about it. But at the moment, I have no information, unfortunately. I'm sorry, Marta.
Jackie, I think Marta's got her hand raised.
Okay, there we go. Perfect. Okay, Anna, I need to remove Anna from the floor, and then Marta will be able to join us. Can remote support assist us with removing Anna from the floor? For some reason, I'm not available to move her back to the audience. And we do have a limit of 4 participants who can join us as speakers. At the moment, we have with Anna, but I don't see Anna on the floor,
Maybe,
however.
Richard, would you mind dropping off for a second, sir?
No,
we can bring...
that will be
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry. Thank you. Here we go. One spot. And Marta should appear any moment. Here we go.
Oh,
Hey, Marta.
hello. Hi. Hello.
Welcome.
No, this great opportunity to ask this question, because when I did my training on the one-on-one session, we did the emergency protocol. I had a Sennheiser professional microphone to use with my mobile phone, which is a Samsung, and the sound was really bad. And we checked a number of times, and finally we tried with a Xiaomi cell phone, my husband's cell phone, and it worked. So the trainer told me that it had been known to happen sometimes with Samsung cell phones. Of course, that was 3 or 4 years ago, so it would make sense that that's no longer an issue, which is great news, because I have to borrow my husband's phone every time I work with Interprefy, make sure he leaves it at home just in case. So it's great news.
Have you maybe tested another Samsung phone? Because it's maybe that specific phone that has some issue with plugging in the headset. If Xiaomi works, then in that case, we would need to test a bit more. But I don't have any...
I haven't had the opportunity to test it again. I've just simply made sure I had a backup in case something happened. But I sort of assumed it had been, if there ever was an issue, would be fixed. Now the microphone works with other devices,
so
but
probably it's that particular one. But I will ask my colleagues as well. So if we have some more cases reported on this matter. Thank you, Marta.
Thank you.
All right. I think that would be all for today. David, Matteo, Mark, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a great opportunity for everyone to hear your insights. And also, I hope you liked the new handover feature. We're going to communicate everything about this additionally, and to make sure that the information reaches out as many interpreters as possible. Thank you, everyone, once more for participating. And that would be all from my side. Much. If you want to do the closing as well, the floor is all yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Great seeing you guys. Thanks for inviting us.
Ron, thank you for attending.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.